A young useless orphan boy named Setsu was summoned to another world, alongside a random boy named Toma. People around them said that the summoning had worked and that the gods had sent heroes to save a place called Destinia. The king, all grand and serious, told them that they were now the saviors of this nation. Setsu, with a furrowed brow, didn't buy into it. He told everyone to stop with the nonsense. He said he never agreed to be some hero. They'd just been dropped here with no clue what was happening. He thought it wasn't fair for folks to dump their problems on them. The king, curious, asked for his name, and Setsu obliged. But even though Setsu reacted that way at first, he soon threw himself into training. Toma, puzzled, asked him how he could stay so calm in a world gone haywire. Setsu explained that this place was full of monsters, demons, and other scary creatures, and they had to get strong to protect themselves. Toma, his eyes wide with fear, said he couldn't think like that. He admitted he was scared of getting caught up in a foreign war. Setsu shrugged it off, saying that complaining wouldn't change their situation. They were already here, after all. Toma argued that it wasn't fair for them to risk their lives in someone else's fight. Setsu acknowledged that but said it didn't mean they had to sit idle. He suggested they give it their all to survive since they were in the same boat. He added that he was sure things would work out as long as they stayed alive. Later on, Setsu declared that they should stop this war. Toma, on the other hand, thought it was impossible. He believed there was no way they could halt a war already in motion. Toma felt he wasn't as strong as Setsu. Setsu, with determination in his eyes, insisted they wouldn't know until they tried. He reminded Toma that since they arrived in this world, they only had each other. They were like hometown brothers, he said. Setsu promised to protect Toma, and together they made a solemn vow to end the war. As time passed, Setsu prepared to leave the castle. He knew he'd become quite strong, but he also knew he needed to explore the world firsthand to stop the war. Toma, though still afraid, pledged to train hard and become strong enough to support Setsu in their mission. They promised to reunite as true heroes once they achieved their goals. Setsu then joined forces with his comrades, Elka, Glein, and Thea, and embarked on their journey. Years rolled by, and Toma earned the title of knight for his brave deeds in battle. He was proudly called the Silver Hero and accepted the honor. His soldiers, loyal and proud, congratulated him on becoming a knight and predicted he'd become a general soon. Toma humbly believed it was too early for that, but he also saw it as a step closer to fulfilling his and Setsu's promise. He believed that by growing stronger both personally and politically, he could put an end to the war. With determination, he declared he would forge ahead to achieve his dream and asked his loyal soldiers if they were willing to stand by him, even if it meant facing death. Their resounding response was yes, and they marched off to the battlefield, ready to follow their silver hero. During one of his missions, Toma and his fellow soldiers entered a spooky temple. Toma warned them not to let anyone get away, or they'd be in big trouble. With swift strokes, Toma took down everyone inside the temple, wondering what this strange place was. In the center, there was a headless statue, and he spotted some priests trying to hide. They begged for mercy, but Toma showed them none. A fellow soldier then reported that the temple was clear. Toma told him to gather the survivors and get moving right away. But then, something weird happened. Toma heard a voice that claimed it could see into his heart. Toma tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop. It said it could see his deepest secrets and his true wishes, and it offered to make them come true. Toma, curious and thinking about his true desires and Setsu, gave in to the voice. It told him to grab a necklace from the statue to make his dreams come true, and Toma did just that. Suddenly, we saw Toma on another battlefield, but something was off. All his fellow soldiers were gone, and it made him remember the times they spent together. He felt a strong urge to fight more enemies to fulfill his dreams. Then, a messenger arrived and brought surprising news. A truce had been called in the name of peace. All the fighting was stopping, and a group of leaders would be passing through the area soon to sign a treaty. Their next mission, Toma said, was to ensure everyone's safety. As he looked around the gathering of leaders, he noticed something surprising. There, among the delegation, was Setsu. Setsu also spotted Toma, and Toma couldn't help but wonder why Setsu was here. Afterward, the leaders signed the peace treaty, and Glein revealed a monument to commemorate this newfound peace. He hoped it would last forever. Everyone celebrated the end of the war, and Toma went over to chat with Setsu. Toma told Setsu how amazing he was for bringing an end to the war. Setsu, humble as ever, said he just went to different places and did his thing. He didn't think it was anything special. Toma, though, believed he could never have done something like this. Setsu, being kind, mentioned that Toma had become an important person now. Toma tried to explain that this was the only way to keep their promise, but before he could, Elka and the others interrupted. They invited Setsu to join the celebration, and Setsu left to go to the party. But Toma had something important to say, so he stopped Setsu. He told Setsu about how he'd been to different places in this world, and at a temple, he was told that his wish could be granted. Toma then asked Setsu if he wanted to go back to their old world with him. He said he'd found a way, but Setsu surprised him by saying he didn't want to go back. He wanted to stay in this world. With the war over, he felt like he could finally start his happy adventure in this new place. This made Toma really mad, and he couldn't figure out why Setsu would say something like that. Then, the voice from the necklace gem asked Toma if he felt despair, and that made Toma think Setsu couldn't leave him again. Toma felt like he understood everything now, and he decided he would destroy anything that got in their way. He declared he would destroy humans, demons, and beastmen, all of them, so Setsu could go back to how he used to be. Toma believed Setsu had to pay attention only to him, so he attacked Setsu. Setsu defended himself, and they started to fight, trading punches and kicks. Toma said he'd even kill anyone who tried to tempt Setsu away. He believed the world only needed the two of them. Then, during one big clash of their attacks, a huge burst of energy erupted, and both Toma and Setsu disappeared. After that moment, Setsu found himself back in his original world with another name, but we'll still call him Setsu. He grew up with his childhood friend Yuyuhi, but Setsu told her to stop hanging out with him because it might cause some annoying rumors. Yuyuhi didn't care about rumors and even offered to cut Setsu's hair like she used to. Setsu thought Yuyuhi never changed and agreed to the haircut. Setsu couldn't help but wonder how the other world was doing. Then, out of nowhere, a summoning circle appeared in their classroom. Setsu got excited seeing it, and in a blink, they were all teleported to another world. Everybody in the class was baffled by what was happening, and before they knew it, they were under attack by some scary demons. The students tried to run away, and Yuyuhi did her best to shield Setsu. But then something strange happened. Setsu sent one of the demons flying, but nobody saw how he did it. After that, he grabbed Yuyuhi, and they dashed away from the chaos. Meanwhile, some soldiers arrived to fight the demons. Setsu couldn't understand why there was a war going on. He thought these wars should have ended long ago. Then, he got a creepy feeling from one of the demons and thought it might be a curse. A lady knight showed up and told the students to retreat since it wasn't safe. She and a male knight, along with other knights, took on the demons, and the students thought they were really strong. So, they all fled from the battlefield, trying to make sense of this strange new world they were in. The students managed to safely arrive at the palace. The king thanked them for coming when their kingdom, Destinia, was in trouble. He explained that demons, like the ones from the war 5 years ago, were invading again. The king believed it was destiny that brought these heroes to their aid. The princess chimed in, acknowledging that they must be confused. She explained that a hero had come to their world 5 years ago due to the time difference between the two worlds, and that hero had ended the war that was tearing their world apart. Setsu thought about how 5 years had passed since then. The princess knew this world might seem strange to them but asked for their help. The students, feeling unsure about their fighting abilities, didn't want to be kicked out of the castle to fend for themselves, so they agreed to help. The princess assured them they had rooms prepared and told them to rest for the day. Later, Setsu bumped into Yuyuhi in the corridor. He comforted her and promised to protect her from any danger that might come their way. The male students were practicing their sword skills, while the female students were busy with magic. Setsu noticed that Yuyuhi was pretty talented when it came to magic. As Setsu tried to get back to his slack, he bumped into the female knight, Elka, along the way. Elka thought Setsu was slacking off and warned him that this world was more dangerous than he realized. She suggested he return to training unless he wanted her to make him. Setsu, feeling a bit cheeky, said he'd like to see her try. Elka swung her practice sword at Setsu, but he dodged it gracefully and playfully gave Elka a clap. The touch reminded her of the previous hero, and Setsu asked if she remembered him now. Elka immediately prostrated herself and treated Setsu like her master. She said it had been so long and that she'd been waiting for his return. Then, in a surprising twist, Elka transformed into a chair, and Setsu casually sat on her, thinking that Elka's peculiar behavior had only escalated since they last met. Just then, Glein showed up and wondered what Elka was doing. She told him that Setsu was back, and Glein believed her, seeing her state. They all went to see Tia, who realized that Setsu had returned when she sensed his magical power. Setsu confirmed that he was back, just like he promised. The others welcomed him warmly. Setsu asked about the war, and Elka had questions for him too. They decided to go somewhere else to talk, so they headed to the palace's walls. There, Elka asked Setsu how he had returned to their world. Glein noticed that Setsu looked different. Setsu explained that he didn't know exactly what happened during his battle with Toma, but he did know that he was reborn in a different world while keeping his memories and magical power. Then, he got summoned into this world again. Glein spoke wisely, saying that the will of God was a mystery to ordinary folks like them. Setsu wanted to know what happened to Toma after the war, as he suspected Toma might be involved in this new conflict. Tia wondered if the demons were controlled by a curse, and Setsu confirmed that they were, believing Toma was the one behind it. Elka explained that they had searched for Toma just like they did for Setsu but hadn't found anything. Tia suggested that if Setsu was alive, Toma might be too. Then, a soldier arrived and said that the king wanted to see Glein in the throne room. Glein headed there, and Setsu thought that being important wasn't easy. Elka remarked that this was supposed to be Setsu's job, but he said he'd never accept a stuffy job like that. He had plans to travel the world after the war. Setsu then looked at the peaceful scenery from the wall and reflected on his love for it. Tia reminded everyone that they had to work hard to protect this place. Setsu couldn't help but wonder what Toma was thinking. In the throne room this time, the king declared that they should never have made peace with the demons. He said the kingdom was going to declare an all-out war on them. Glein urged the king to be patient and explained that their emissary to the demon kingdom hadn't sent word yet. They needed to understand the situation before taking action. The princess chimed in, saying it was the demons who had started the invasion, and the fact that new heroes were summoned at the same time showed that justice was on their side. The king regretted listening to the hero's words 5 years ago and making a peace treaty. He believed the absence of the hero now meant that God wanted them to unify the world in a different way. Setsu then found Yuyuhi practicing her magic all by herself. He told her she had a real knack for it, which made Yuyuhi smile. But then she got all serious and wondered why people would want to go to war, thinking that practicing magic might hurt someone. Still, she decided to keep practicing because she had talent and wanted to use it to protect Setsu. When night fell, Setsu and his friends gathered at the castle walls. Glein said he managed to buy them some time by convincing others that the heroes needed more training. But it seemed like war was inevitable. Setsu declared that he'd go out and try to stop the war, especially if Toma was behind it. Elka insisted they'd be his personal guard, and Glein said it would be great to fight alongside Setsu again. Setsu, though, said he had to go alone this time to ensure there were enough defenders for their home. They tried to refuse, but Setsu reminded them that they should listen since they were his personal guard. They realized they couldn't say no to that request. Setsu knew what he needed to do next. The next day, Setsu and his friends used an invisibility spell to sneak into the castle and steal Setsu's sword. It felt like the old dungeon crawling days. Elka subdued a guard, and they made their way into the storeroom. Setsu retrieved his sword, Korumaru, but their actions didn't go unnoticed. Guards found the unconscious one, and the palace went into lockdown. Glein said he'd stall them, and Tia offered to help. Setsu left the palace with Elka, who told him she'd be waiting for his return. Yuyuhi found Setsu outside the palace and asked him where he was off to. Setsu told her that this was the second time he'd been summoned to this world, and he was going to meet an old friend to stop the war. Yuyuhi wanted to go with him, but Setsu worried it would be too dangerous for her. He explained that he was going alone because he didn't want to put her at risk, and Yuyuhi understood. She asked him to close his eyes for a moment. With a little wind and fire magic, Yuyuhi gave Setsu a quick haircut. She promised to get stronger so she could protect him in this world. They said their goodbyes, and Setsu set off on his new journey. While on his journey, Setsu came across a girl named Ruri who was in a tight spot, being attacked by a monster. Ruri tried talking to the monster, saying she wouldn't taste good even if he ate her. She even offered it some money, but the monster was still trying to attack her. But Setsu, being the hero he was, made quick work of the monster, defeating it easily. Ruri wanted to reward him with money, but Setsu refused, saying he was just passing by. Ruri then mentioned that her late grandfather had told her there's no such thing as a free lunch, so she should settle everything with money. Setsu didn't think highly of her grandfather and reminded Ruri of the hero from 5 years ago who used to do business with her grandfather. He also pointed out that it was dangerous for her to carry goods without a guard. Ruri, however, asked if Setsu would be her guard until she delivered her package. Setsu agreed to accompany her to the port town ahead. As they traveled, Setsu couldn't help his curiosity and asked Ruri what she was delivering, but she insisted on keeping it a secret, calling it precious. Upon arriving at the port town of Mar, Ruri tried to hire a ship to the demonic continent, but every ship captain refused due to the ongoing war. It seemed like all the ships had been cancelled for the time being. Then, a group of corrupt guards showed up and demanded Ruri's merchant identification documents. She showed them her ID, but when they asked to see the leather bag she was carrying, she refused. They threatened to confiscate the bag, but Setsu stepped in and asked if they had a permit for inspecting packages. The guards tried to intimidate him by drawing their swords, but they backed off when a crowd gathered to see what was happening. During their lunch break, Setsu asked Ruri what she planned to do since she couldn't find a ship to take her where she needed to go. Ruri replied that she was going to buy a ship. Setsu pointed out that it would cost her a lot of money. Setsu mentioned that he was on his way to the demonic kingdom, and he offered to take her with him, but she would have to stay at an inn for the night. Ruri agreed to his condition and asked if they could split the cost of the inn. In their room at the inn, Ruri asked Setsu to hold on to her package while she took a bath. Setsu hesitated, asking if she was sure. Ruri reassured him, saying she trusted him. She then showed him a brooch and explained that it was the last job her grandfather had taken on. Setsu recognized the brooch as the one he had gifted to the demon lord in his past life. Ruri revealed that her grandfather had been a famous jeweler. One day, someone had come to request repairs on this brooch that her grandfather had made long ago. Despite not having much time left, her grandfather had finished the repairs. He had then entrusted Ruri with the delivery of the brooch, and she had promised to deliver it. Setsu couldn't help but wonder if the demon lord was safe. While Setsu and Ruri were asleep, some guards barged into the inn and accused them of spying for the demons. Setsu acted quickly, leaving the room through the window with Ruri, and the guards chased after them. However, their escape route led them to a dead end by the sea with no way out. The guards gloated, saying they had nowhere to run. But Setsu declared it was time to go and jumped into the water, surprising the guards. They thought they were done for, but then a massive monster emerged from the water. Setsu landed on top of the monster and apologized for summoning her so suddenly. He promised to explain later and asked her to take them to the demonic kingdom. The monster obliged and swam away, leaving the guards baffled about how to report this. Ruri recognized the monster as Leviathan, the god of the sea, and wondered who she had hired as a guard. The demonic kingdom came into view, and they headed toward it. Setsu watched with excitement as Leviathan battled a giant squid. However, Leviathan asked for his help during the fight. Later, Setsu introduced Ruri to Leviathan. Leviathan told Ruri she was lucky to meet her. Then, she turned to Setsu and asked why he hadn't helped her during the squid battle. Setsu explained that he thought she could handle it on her own. This made Leviathan angry, and she scolded Setsu for calling her after 5 years just to make her ferry him around the demonic kingdom. Ruri interrupted their argument and asked what they were going to do with the squid. Leviathan suggested letting Setsu deal with it, so he decided to make some squid rings out of it. Both Ruri and Leviathan enjoyed the squid rings. Leviathan mentioned that the demonic fishing village was close, and on the other side of the mountain was the Demon King's castle. She explained that Ruri's package was supposed to go to the castle, and she had some business with its recipient as well. Ruri asked if they knew this Disaster Salino person, and Leviathan revealed that Disaster was the demon lord. Ruri was surprised by this revelation. Leviathan added that they would have to continue on foot from this point, so her part in the journey was done, and she would be returning to the sea. Setsu asked Leviathan if she wasn't coming with them, and she explained that she had kept her promise to maintain peace on the seas. But now, 5 years later, Setsu had returned and treated her like a boat. Setsu tried to explain that a lot had happened during that time. Then, a few demon kids showed up and asked if Setsu and Leviathan were having a lover's quarrel. They said that in such situations, a man had to apologize. Setsu, feeling a bit embarrassed, gave the kids some squid rings and asked them to go away. The kids loved the squid rings and asked Setsu to make some for their parents too. Leviathan mentioned that there was plenty more squid available, so they decided to take it over to the children's village. Meanwhile, in the village, people were having trouble fishing because of the appearance of the squid monster. They mentioned that the merchants had stopped coming there due to the war, and they worried that they would run out of food soon. They felt they had no choice but to fight the squid. Setsu arrived at the village and asked if he could put his squid there. The villagers were surprised to see that the squid monster had already been defeated. The scene shifted to the village having a party. The villagers treated Leviathan with respect because she was the god of the sea. Setsu and Ruri sold squid rings at the festival, and Leviathan told Setsu to work faster. She sliced up the squid and made more squid rings to serve the entire village. Meanwhile, Brad, the head of the demon lord's personal guard, came across the village. Seeing all the lights in the village, he thought there might be a fire. He believed humans might have invaded the village and was determined to protect it at all costs. Almost everyone in the village had passed out after drinking, and Ruri was also drunk on some juice. She asked Leviathan how she knew Setsu, and Leviathan explained that 5 years ago, Setsu tried to cross her ocean without permission, and they had a battle. After being defeated, Setsu demanded her help to finish the war. Leviathan admitted that in reality, she went on a rampage, and Setsu defeated her with a single strike. Leviathan thought that Setsu should be popular in Destinia, where he couldn't believe that Setsu was that hero who ended the war. She realized that this explained how he knew the Demon Lord and the God of the Sea. She wondered why someone like him would become a guard and if the number of accidents in the ocean dropped because of Setsu's relationship with Leviathan. Leviathan mentioned that Setsu asked her to maintain peace in the ocean. Ruri asked if Leviathan was mad at Setsu, but Leviathan said it was fine because she got to see him again. Ruri thought that Leviathan must really love Setsu. This made Leviathan blush, and she admitted that the God of the Sea couldn't be in love with a human, but she had been waiting for him to return. Brad burst into the village, asking if everyone was okay. He noticed the village was having a party. The scene then shifted to Leviathan and Ruri sitting by the sea, where Leviathan snacked on raw fish. Brad approached them, apologizing for his earlier rude behavior. He was surprised to see Leviathan in her human form and also noticed Setsu. Brad mentioned that it was hard to recognize Setsu in his new form. Setsu wondered why the Demon Lord's closest officer was here and if it had something to do with the war. Brad explained that he had been searching for Leviathan and hadn't expected to run into Setsu here. He said he was starting to see a ray of hope and asked for their help to save the Demon Lord. Brad explained that the Demon Lord was being forced into a marriage with a man named Terran Sneeder, who was trying to subjugate her through a curse. Setsu thought that the desert could resist most curses, but Brad mentioned that Terran had brought a powerful curse necklace. Brad then informed Setsu about a war that had broken out a month ago when humans invaded the demon territory. Setsu was surprised to hear about the invasion. Brad explained that one of the coastal villages had been attacked by heavily armored soldiers who left behind the flag of Destinia. Although they managed to fend them off, the soldiers had returned several times, and the Demon Lord had sent an emissary to the human nation. But the emissary had not returned. Taking advantage of the Demon Lord's reluctance to go to war, Terran Sneeder had offered to negotiate peace. Setsu wondered if this Terran Sneeder guy could really stop the war. Brad assured him that Terran Sneeder held a different kind of power in the world compared to Setsu. Ruri chimed in, explaining that Terran Sneeder was the world's wealthiest merchant and the head of the Terran Trading Company. She mentioned that most of the merchant ships at sea belonged to him. Brad added that Terran had a firm grip on all the world's money, and both humans and demons needed the support of merchants for a cross-continent war. Setsu found it hard to believe that the Demon Lord was willing to become a pawn to stop the war. Leviathan reminded him that she had promised to maintain peace. She insisted they couldn't leave her alone. The scene then shifted to their journey toward the Demon Lord's castle. Setsu mentioned how this route brought back memories, as they had used it for surprise attacks on the Demon King's castle in the past. They were suddenly surrounded by a few monsters, but Leviathan assured them she would handle the monsters. The story then went back a few moments to Brad explaining that the wedding date was unclear, but since the Demon Lord had agreed to it, they shouldn't waste any time. Brad noted that Terran was heavily guarded, and the road to the castle was infested with monsters. He asked Setsu to conserve his magic power, with Leviathan promising to protect him on their journey. They continued their journey, and in the present, Leviathan took care of the monsters. She turned to Setsu and asked him about their plan. Setsu replied confidently that he intended to disrupt the wedding and deal with Terran himself. Leviathan questioned how they would stop the war without the merchant, but Setsu had a theory. He believed that the war was orchestrated by someone, not the demons or Destinia. Setsu pointed out that when they were in Destinia, he saw heavily armored men attacking, which didn't seem like the work of either side. He admitted not knowing who the mastermind was but was certain that Terran held some answers. Their conversation was interrupted by another monster attack, swiftly handled by Leviathan. Setsu wondered if she had become stronger, to which Leviathan responded that she hadn't been idle during Setsu's absence. As they continued towards the Demon Lord's castle, Leviathan reflected on how she had little interest in the world above before meeting Setsu. She used to spend all her time sleeping at the ocean's bottom. But after meeting him, she saw the beauty of the world and wished for it to remain peaceful forever. The Demon Lord Disaster believed she had lived a long life and understood that the world was beyond her control. She had played many roles, ruler, protector, heir, and had kept on fighting. But then, one day, Setsu appeared before her, suggesting an end to the war. He offered a brooch as a symbol of reconciliation and even remarked that black suited her. It was thanks to him that the war had come to a halt. The scene shifted to the Demon Lord learning about Setsu's disappearance. Brad informed her that they had searched extensively but still couldn't find him, and even Destinia had no information about his whereabouts. Despite this, Disaster was determined to honor the promise of peace she had made with Setsu. She told Brad they needed to work even harder to maintain peace, and Brad declared his willingness to give his life for that cause. The Demon Lord then toured the capital and observed its prosperity, brought about by the peace and trade between the human and demon nations. Unfortunately, the brooch Setsu had given her broke. Brad assured her he would send it to a skilled jeweler in Destinia for repairs. Later, a soldier arrived at the Demon Lord's castle with news that a Destinian army had invaded. Brad felt disappointed that the peace had lasted only 5 years, but Disaster urged caution and ordered preparations for their own army. She sent 2 of her men to Destinia to investigate, finding the situation suspicious. She remained committed to the promise she made to Setsu, and her soldiers geared up for the impending war. The soldiers worried about the formidable enemy with massive armored soldiers, uncertain if they could survive this conflict. They regretted trusting the humans and signing the peace treaty but maintained their faith in the Demon Lord. A month passed, and the Demon Lord still hadn't received word from Destinia. She feared for the future of their nation and questioned her ability to keep her promise to Setsu. Brad then informed the Demon Lord that Terran Nieder had arrived and wanted to speak with her. She welcomed him, and Terran offered his assistance in ending the war swiftly, citing the power of his company. The Demon Lord inquired about Terran's request, and he revealed that he wanted her to be his wife, showing her a necklace for their vows. Brad and the others noticed the necklace was cursed, and the Demon Lord questioned where he acquired such a thing. Terran claimed it took significant effort, but Brad urged the Demon Lord not to consider his proposal. She asked for time to think it over, and Terran remarked that he had plenty of time but questioned if she did. He then departed. Later, the Demon Lord pondered that this might be the only way to keep her promise to Setsu. Brad arrived and insisted that she shouldn't accept such a ridiculous offer, emphasizing that her army was prepared to fight to the end. Disaster explained that this was precisely why she couldn't refuse, and Brad left. The Demon Lord remembered Setsu's comment about her looking good in black and wondered if he would find it laughable to see her in white against her wishes. Somewhere else, Terran is having a conversation with a mysterious person, expressing how easily he convinced the Demon Lord. He believes that supporting this hooded figure's plans will bring him great rewards. Terran also mentions that the Demon Kingdom will be involved soon and suggests pulling back their costly magic soldiers to avoid further complications. However, the hooded man disagrees, emphasizing that they both want different things. Terran desires the Demon Lord, while the hooded man seeks the kingdom. They agree that this arrangement aligns with their respective interests, and is the will of the hooded man's master. The scene shifts to the day of the Demon Lord's wedding, with a gathering at the church for the ceremony. The demons in attendance appear unhappy about the impending wedding. The Demon Lord enters the church wearing a wedding dress, and her beauty captivates the crowd. The officiating father calls for the exchange of vows. Terran declares that he and the Demon Lord are entering a vow of master and servant, pledging to bring eternal peace to the world. He urges his allies to swear allegiance to their new Demon Lord, aiming to protect the world and make their mark in history. Terran then approaches the Demon Lord to place the cursed necklace on her, asking if she's willing to make a vow of eternal love. The Demon Lord accepts, silently wishing she could have seen Setsu one last time. Setsu bursts into the church, declaring that he's here to rescue the Demon Lord. Brad and Ruri also notice his arrival and realize they need to act quickly. Terran, puzzled by Setsu's presence, orders his guards to protect him. Leviathan swiftly deals with the guards, commenting that Disaster doesn't look good in white. The hooded man employs shadow magic to restrain Leviathan, but Setsu intervenes, preventing the man from using his shadow magic further. Setsu is determined to make him pay for making Disaster cry. The hooded man acknowledges that he didn't expect the hero Setsu to appear, and decides to report this to his master. He attempts to attack Setsu, but Setsu counters the attack and knocks him down. Setsu wonders if that's all the hooded man has, and the hooded man admits they'll have to settle things later as he needs to inform his master. With that, the hooded man departs. Disaster embraces Setsu, expressing how much she missed him and asking where he had gone. Setsu replies that it's a long story. He expresses relief that she's safe, but Leviathan reminds them that the attackers are still present. Setsu examines the attackers and realizes they are magic soldiers created from curses. Witnessing the curses at work, Setsu suspects that Toma is behind all of this. Disaster admits that she had also suspected Toma's involvement in all of this. As the Demon Lord, she offers to assist Setsu in his mission. Setsu, in turn, asks her to handle things here while he goes to see Regulus, the king of the Beastmen. Disaster believes it would be reassuring to secure Regulus's help but thinks Setsu is rushing things. Setsu emphasizes the need to uphold their promise of peace. Leviathan wonders if they are leaving already, feeling tired after all the running around. Ruri and Brad eventually arrive at the scene. Brad observes the state of the castle, and Ruri asks Setsu if everything went well. Setsu confirms that it did, and Ruri hands him the brooch, suggesting that he should be the one to give it to Disaster. Setsu presents the brooch to Disaster, realizing that this is the second time he's given it to her. He places the brooch on her, and Disaster reflects on how Setsu has once again taught her the meaning of living. Later, the army works to clean up the castle. Disaster tells Setsu that she would have loved to accompany him but recognizes that as a ruler, she can't leave her throne at this time. Setsu promises to take her wherever she wants to go once they establish peace. Brad advises against rulers leaving even during times of peace. Leviathan chimes in, suggesting that Brad should also contribute and not let Disaster handle everything. Ruri mentions that the Demon Lord has allowed her to open a shop in the capital, and Setsu questions if Disaster is sure about this decision. Disaster reassures him, citing Ruri's delivery of the precious brooch as a reason. Brad expresses his gratitude to Setsu for helping them. Setsu then departs with Leviathan, and Disaster asks him to return to clap her once everything is over. Now, we go back in time to when young Setsu and Yuyuhi first met. They say hello to each other, and Yuyuhi invites Setsu to play with her, but Setsu declines, saying it's too hot that day. Initially, Setsu appeared scary and unfriendly to Yuyuhi, but as they lived nearby, they spent more time together. Gradually, Setsu started playing with her and helping her with studies, revealing his kind nature. The scene shifts to their walk home from middle school, and Yuyuhi spots a poster for a prep school. She asks Setsu if they could attend the same high school if she goes there, but she quickly brushes it off as a joke before he can answer. They part ways and head to their respective homes. Later, at their apartment, Yuyuhi brings up her previous question, and Setsu suggests she aim for a less challenging school if going to the same one is too much trouble. This response saddens Yuyuhi. Time passes, and we see that Yuyuhi has indeed started attending the prep school. However, despite her efforts, her mock test results haven't improved. One day, while returning from the prep school, she encounters some boys in the park. They inquire if she's feeling down about her mock test scores and advise her to give up if it's too difficult. They suggest she stop studying and hang out with them instead. Next, Setsu arrives at the scene and suggests to the guys that they should pick on someone else since Yuyuhi is busy studying. The guys decide to leave, assuming that Setsu is Yuyuhi's boyfriend. Setsu then tells Yuyuhi that what those guys said was partially true, emphasizing that pushing herself too hard won't necessarily lead to success. Yuyuhi, determined not to give up, expresses her commitment. Setsu understands her resolve and states that he'll have to help her, even if she complains. He warns her that he won't go easy on her. Gratefully, Yuyuhi thanks him, thinking about her desire to stay close to the person she loves. Now, back to the present, we see the students who were teleported to the other world practicing magic in Dystinia and improving their skills. Among them, Yuyuhi stands out as the best. After their training exercises end, Elka compliments Yuyuhi's performance. The other students leave the training area, but Yuyuhi follows Elka and Glein. She inquires if they are Setsu's companions from his previous visit, and they confirm that they are. Elka admires Setsu's ability to draw people in and expresses her deep respect for him. She shares her wish to remain by his side and enjoy the same views as him. Elka then asks Yuyuhi why she's here, and Yuyuhi requests special training because she also wants to be with Setsu. Elka leads Yuyuhi to the castle walls and shows her the peaceful world that Setsu has created. She mentions that Setsu is currently fighting somewhere, and as Setsu's companions, they are ready to assist him at a moment's notice. Yuyuhi expresses her desire to help Setsu, but she admits that she lacks the necessary strength. She asks Elka for a mock battle to improve her abilities, and Elka agrees. Drawing her sword, Elka initiates the offensive. Yuyuhi defends herself against Elka's attacks and uses her magic to counter. They continue clashing for a while until Elka decides to stop the battle. Elka acknowledges Yuyuhi's growth, mentioning that all the kids from the other world are exceptional, but Yuyuhi is even more special among them. However, she tells Yuyuhi that she still lacks something to stand by Setsu's side and takes her to the castle's sewers. Elka explains that these sewers are filled with monsters and are sometimes used as a final training ground for soldiers. Yuyuhi is unsure of Elka's intention, and a monster emerges from the water. Elka encourages Yuyuhi not to be afraid and fight the monster. Yuyuhi attacks the monster with her fire spell, but the creature is not defeated. It retaliates, scratching Yuyuhi's arm. She launches another fire spell, sending the monster flying, but Elka insists that she finish it off. Yuyuhi hesitates, and Elka points out that she lacks the determination to kill. She emphasizes that in war, they must kill the enemy to protect their loved ones. Yuyuhi recalls the scenes of war she witnessed after arriving in this world. Eventually, Elka finishes off the monster. They leave the sewers, and in her room, Yuyuhi ponders her situation. Tia enters her room and heals Yuyuhi's wounds. Grateful, Yuyuhi thanks Tia and acknowledges that she requested the real battle. Tia remarks that she sees Yuyuhi as one of them. She mentions that she doesn't know how Setsu was in the other world, but he treats Yuyuhi the same way as he treats them. Tia explains that this is why she understands Elka's tough approach. She asks Yuyuhi why she wants to be close to Setsu, knowing that it puts her in danger. Yuyuhi replies that Setsu has helped her since they were kids, and now she wants to be the one to help him. Tia understands and wishes Yuyuhi good luck before leaving. Tia praises Yuyuhi's strength and suggests that she can defend herself on the battlefield. Elka expresses concerns about the dangerous foes Yuyuhi might face, but Tia emphasizes that the decision is Yuyuhi's alone. She leaves, and the scene shifts to Yuyuhi waiting to speak with Glein. Glein wonders if she wants to discuss her feelings about the previous night, acknowledging that it's natural to hesitate when it comes to taking lives, even for the sake of someone precious. Yuyuhi asks Glein how he finds the determination to fight, and he explains that he chooses to make others suffer rather than watch his loved ones suffer. He believes this is a common mindset among soldiers. However, he encourages Yuyuhi to find her own reason to fight. After their conversation, Glein departs, leaving Yuyuhi to reflect on what she's learned. The next day during training, it becomes evident that Yuyuhi's magical power has significantly improved, surprising everyone. She returns to the sewers with Elka, who questions if Yuyuhi has found her determination. Yuyuhi affirms her decision, and when a monster appears, she uses a powerful fire spell to incapacitate it without taking its life. Elka is impressed by Yuyuhi's determination, which mirrors Setsu's stance. She acknowledges that Yuyuhi needs more power and agrees to train her further. Yuyuhi is determined to become stronger to protect everyone. In the throne room, Glein informs the Otherworlders about the king's decree to leave for the Demon Kingdom the following day to protect their nation and its citizens. He advises the kids to prepare both physically and mentally, and they leave, feeling uncertain about their ability to fight after such brief training. Yuyuhi is resolute in her decision to enter battle and asks Setsu to wait for her. Setsu and Leviathan are on a carriage journey. Setsu thinks Leviathan is a bit too laid back, but she says they have nothing to do until they reach the Beastman continent. Setsu agrees, and Leviathan explains she'll be on boat duty once they reach the port, her way of repaying for being the god of the seas. Setsu mentions that the war has halted all ships, so they have no choice but to travel this way. He asks Leviathan if she can use teleportation magic to get them there faster. Leviathan explains that teleportation magic is a big hassle, requiring years of preparation and immense magic power. Setsu understands that if it were easy, carriages wouldn't exist. Leviathan insists on proper compensation, jokingly asking for Setsu's cookies. Suddenly, the carriage stops, and two more girls join them. Setsu recognizes one as Elise, who calls him master. He introduces her to Leviathan, mentioning they traveled together before. Elise claims to be Setsu's top pupil, which surprises him since he doesn't remember teaching her. Leviathan asks about the other girl, Armel, who is Elise's younger sister. Setsu is surprised to learn this and asks Elise where he has been for the past 5 years. Elise is intrigued by Setsu's story, and he explains what happened during his absence. She admits she wouldn't believe it if someone else told her the same story. Setsu invites Elise to join them on the Beastman continent, but she explains she's currently involved in a serious situation. Elise explains that after Setsu disappeared, she took on monster hunting jobs as part of her training. One day, she accepted a quest to slay a dragon in a village called Zaslow. In a flashback, we see the village chief offering her a place to stay in Armel's house. Armel, who lives there, cooks food for Elise, and they share a pleasant meal. Armel reveals that she isn't from the village and was found by her brother 2 years ago. She explains that he treated her like his own sister, but he hasn't returned since the dragon appeared. Now, Armel is alone again. Elias finds the village nice and expresses her desire to stay there once the issue with the dragon is resolved. Armel happily accepts, and Elias tells her to call her big sister during her stay, which excites Armel. In the present, Setsu asks Elias if Armel's brother might have been killed by the dragon. Elias doesn't think so because when the dragon attacks, several villagers go missing without a struggle or evidence. They vanish without a trace. Setsu finds this strange. Elias disabled the village sword against evil, thinking it would lure the dragon for a battle. Armel warned her that it was dangerous, but Elias was determined. She told Armel to go home for safety. Armel then showed Elias a butterfly and mentioned she's good at catching them. Elias found it odd for a male to call her big sister. The scene shifts to the dragon attacking the village, and Elias confronts it. She injures the dragon, but it escapes. When she returns to the village, she discovers everyone has disappeared. Armel was the only person left in the village, so she decided to go to the city for help. That's when they crossed paths with Setsu and Leviathan and got a ride in their carriage. Leviathan thinks it's a major issue that an entire village disappeared, and Elias explains that her main goal is to find Armel's brother and ensure she can live peacefully in the village. However, she's puzzled by the situation. She asks Setsu if he has any ideas, and he admits he's never heard of anything like this but is willing to assist. Armel and Elias are relieved and happy. Leviathan then suggests that zombies might be responsible for the disappearance. She mentions the possibility of the entire village turning into the Walking Dead due to a necromancer. Setsu questions this, pointing out that zombies should increase in number, not vanish completely. Leviathan humorously suggests the existence of rare air zombies, but Setsu urges her to take it more seriously. Leviathan then wonders if sirens could be involved. She explains that when sailors go missing, sirens are often blamed, as their songs lure men into the ocean. Setsu points out that the village is in the mountains, not near the sea, leading Leviathan to speculate that there might be mountain-dwelling sirens. Armel chimes in, noting that sea monsters have a distinct smell, making them easy to identify, and Leviathan needn't worry if she doesn't smell like that. Setsu then playfully suggests that the culprits might be space aliens, referencing stories from his world where aliens kidnap people with flying saucers. Leviathan insists he take it seriously, and Setsu theorizes that the dragon which attacked the village could be an advanced species, capable of hiding among the villagers by taking a human form. Setsu then asks Leviathan if she has the ability to make people disappear without a trace, to which Leviathan responds that she cannot. Elias then questions Leviathan if she's a dragon, and Leviathan playfully mentions that she's the god of the sea, and it's not right to compare her to a lowly dragon. Elias is puzzled by this, and Leviathan asks Elias why the dragon didn't make Armel disappear. The carriage comes to a halt, and the driver explains they can't proceed until the water settles down. Setsu inquires about Elias' plans once they reach the city. She explains she intends to return to Zaslow to gather evidence about the missing villagers. Setsu asks why the dragon repeatedly attacked the village, and Leviathan suggests it might have been drawn by powerful magic. Setsu wonders why the people disappeared and theorizes that they couldn't have just vanished, so they must have gone somewhere. He speculates that transfer magic might have attracted the dragon, not the other way around. Every time people were transported using this magic, it lured the dragon due to the magic power involved. Elias mentions that magic requires a user, so they wonder who that could be. Setsu notes that transfer magic is a lengthy process, but someone arrived in the village 2 years ago. Armel questions if they suspect her, deeming it nonsense and suggesting that Setsu's alien theory was more plausible. Elias agrees with her, and Setsu reminds Armel of her comment during Leviathan's siren story about sea monsters' distinct smell. Elias explains most demons have a similar sense of smell. Setsu points out that Leviathan is exceptional, keeping her magic hidden even in her human form. So how did Armel recognize Leviathan's true nature? Armel claims it's because she knows a bit about monsters and suddenly attacks them. They dodge the attack, and Armel transforms into a dragon. Leviathan and Setsu engage in a battle against the dragon. Setsu calls on his top pupil, Elias, for assistance. Together, Setsu and Elias fight the dragon, causing it to slip on the wet ground. Leviathan combines her magic with Setsu's sword to attack the dragon, and they enter into a fierce battle. The dragon attempts to escape, but Elias intercepts it and ultimately defeats the dragon. The story shifts to Setsu riding on Leviathan's back as they head toward the Beastman continent. Leviathan worries if it's okay to leave Elias on her own. Setsu reassures her, saying that they defeated the dragon, so Elias should be capable of handling the rest. He adds that if she calls herself his pupil, she should finish the job she takes on. Meanwhile, Elise returns to Zaslow, and Armel appears. Elise is surprised to see Armel alive and questions her about the missing villagers. Armel reveals that she turned them into dolls, explaining that magic soldiers were needed for the war, and the villagers possessed strong magic power. Elise demands to know who Armel really is. Armel introduces herself as Meller, the monster tamer, a name given to her by Toma. The story continues in Leoport, a bustling town in the Beastman continent. A cute girl named Shiro is the center of attention in the market, where people gather around her, offering gifts. Shiro feels grateful but mentions she can't accept so many presents. The market folks insist, thanking her for helping with the supply chains and reminding her of her responsibility to take care of her sister. After leaving the market, Shiro encounters some children who ask her to teach them monster fighting. She kindly declines, stating that fighting monsters is her job. More people offer gifts, but Shiro, overwhelmed, explains she can't carry more and heads home. Her sister, Mineko, welcomes her with a cough. Shiro gives her medicine, vowing to make her sister better and encouraging Mineko to do her best, which she promises to do. Meanwhile, Setsu approaches a man at the harbor, inquiring about getting a boat. The man regretfully informs him that there are no boats available today. Setsu offers to pay well for an urgent matter but receives the same response. Faced with no other options, Setsu suggests they ride on Leviathan. This idea upsets Leviathan, who mentions she's been swimming for 3 days and nights. Setsu apologizes, acknowledging her as his only reliable option. This pleases Leviathan, who agrees to swim again if she gets a day of rest. The man finally mentions there will be a boat available tomorrow. Leviathan chides him for not catching the urgency earlier. Setsu decides they should find an inn for the night and enjoy a good meal. In another part of town, Shiro enters an inn and thanks the owner, Kuro, for finding her medicine. Kuro, appreciating Shiro's hard work, doesn't mind helping. Kuro then shows Shiro a picture of a man, telling her that her next job is to assassinate this man. She explains that if Shiro completes this task, she won't have to work again and can easily afford the medicine. Soon, Setsu enters the inn, and Shiro hides. He rents a room, and Shiro quietly leaves. Setsu asks Kuro if there are any good restaurants nearby, and she suggests a place with traditional Beastmen food. The scene shifts to Shiro having dinner with her sister, Mineko, who hasn't eaten much. Shiro tells Mineko she has another job for the day, and encourages her to go to bed. It's revealed that Mineko is wearing a cursed necklace. Back at the inn, Kuro notices that Setsu and Leviathan are asleep. She informs Shiro and asks if she's still hesitating. Shiro expresses her determination and asks Kuro if they can live together like sisters once she's paid for the job. She recalls how Kuro has cared for them and provided medicine. Kuro agrees, saying she can treat her as a sister, even if it's a bit selfish. She tells Shiro to complete the job to help her sister recover and hands her the key to Setsu's room. Shiro enters their room and attacks Setsu with her claws, only to realize it was an illusion. Setsu kicks her out of the window and questions if she's affiliated with Toma. Shiro denies knowing Toma but insists on taking Setsu's life. Shiro launched a fireball at Setsu, but he quickly deflected it and slapped her gently, cautioning her about the danger of using such attacks in a crowded area. The slap knocked Shiro out, and Setsu noticed that she was surrounded by cursed energy, which she must have brought from somewhere. The scene then shifted to Shiro waking up in her house, where she launched another attack at Setsu before realizing where she was. Mineko explained that Setsu had found Shiro unconscious and brought her home. Setsu asked Shiro to go along with his plan, and she thanked him for his help. Setsu then empathized with Shiro's situation, understanding that she took on dangerous jobs for her sister's sake. He revealed that Mineko wasn't suffering from an illness but was under a powerful curse, which Leviathan suspected was cast by Toma. Shiro asked if there was a way to save Mineko and expressed her willingness to do anything to help. Setsu assured her that he would save her sister and prepared to use a special sword named Glutton. Shiro asked about the sword, and Setsu called it his secret trump card. He instructed Glutton to devour the curse, which caused some discomfort for Mineko. Kuro attempted to attack Setsu, but Shiro intervened, taking the blow. Kuro admonished Shiro for protecting the target she was supposed to assassinate, and Setsu realized he couldn't stop the process at this point. Leviathan also engaged Kuro in battle, and Setsu asked her if she could handle it. Leviathan confidently declared that she could handle Kuro and engaged her in battle. Kuro, realizing Leviathan's immense magical power, acknowledged that she must be the god of the sea but pointed out that she couldn't fully utilize her powers on land. Kuro created clones of herself and surrounded Leviathan, but with a single powerful attack, Leviathan wiped out all the clones and defeated Kuro in the next move. She then demanded to know Toma's intentions and promised to spare Kuro's life if she answered honestly. Shiro questioned Kuro about her motives, and Kuro dismissively called her a pathetic runt incapable of executing a simple order. She revealed that Toma's goal was to become a god and annihilate all the species in the world, and they were his faithful pawns. Leviathan doubted a mere human could become a god, but Kuro insisted that only Toma could achieve it. She then used a flash bomb to escape. Kuro noticed that Mineko had recovered, and Setsu recognized the cursed necklace as the same one Disaster had. He concluded that Toma was a dangerous individual attempting to become a god and destroy the world, vowing to stop him. The scene transitioned to Leviathan and Setsu traveling on a boat. Leviathan lamented the chaotic night and emphasized the need to meet the Beast King. Setsu expressed surprise at the prospect of fighting alongside the Beast King again. He then noticed Shiro and Mineko waiting for them at the front of the boat and ordered the driver to stop. Shiro and Mineko expressed their intention to fight alongside Setsu, and Shiro also wanted to talk to Kuro again. Setsu cautioned them about the upcoming tough battles, but they were determined to help. Setsu welcomed them aboard, and they continued their journey toward the capital. In the past, there was a duel between Setsu and Roa, the Beast King's daughter. Setsu questioned Roa's skills and Roa made it clear she wouldn't accept him as her master until he defeated her. Setsu clarified that he never intended to be her master and urged her to make a move. Roa hesitated but eventually gathered her courage and attacked Setsu. In the present, at the royal capital of Rigdam, the Beastmen debated whether to invade the human and demon kingdom or protect their own kind. The discussion escalated into a conflict, and the Beast King and Roa both sensed something unusual. Roa left the room. Setsu arrived in the capital but was denied entry by the guards who didn't recognize him. They cited the wartime situation as a reason not to trust a human and asked him to leave. Shiro and Mineko vouched for Setsu, mentioning he was their soon-to-be master, but the guards remained skeptical. Setsu contemplated leaping over the gate like last time when he noticed Roa descending from the sky. She landed on the guards, recognizing Setsu's scent. Roa expressed her concern and attempted a sneak attack on Setsu, but he swiftly countered her. Roa complimented Setsu's strength, expecting such prowess from her future master. Setsu reiterated that he never agreed to be her master. Shiro and Mineko questioned if she was indeed the Beast King's daughter, to which Leviathan confirmed her identity. They proceeded inside the capital. Roa shared her worries about Setsu's 5-year absence, and Setsu explained that a lot had happened during that time. He affectionately petted Roa, prompting Mineko's reminder about not doing it in public. Leviathan noted that not much had changed in 5 years. King Regulus greeted Setsu, who playfully threw the king onto the ground. Regulus admired Setsu's enduring strength, reminiscent of the hero he once fought alongside. Setsu, in turn, glanced around the throne room and noted that Regulus hadn't changed much. Regulus observed that Setsu looked different but still had the same distinctive scent. The scene shifted to everyone in the throne room, and Regulus suggested they celebrate with a feast. However, before that, he proposed a duel. Setsu found it tempting but explained he had pressing matters to discuss. Regulus inquired if it pertained to the war, and Setsu confirmed that Toma was alive and planning to kill everyone. Regulus, determined to protect his nation, Zu Dorado, couldn't ignore such a threat. Regulus wanted to join Setsu in the war, but Setsu believed Regulus should remain as a backup in case things escalated in the capital. Roa offered to go in his place, and Regulus agreed, recognizing her power. A man arrived, interrupting the decision. He prevented Roa from accompanying Setsu, stating that, considering the war situation, they couldn't spare manpower for other nations. The man introduced himself as Zu Dorado Army's commander, Luga, and claimed to be Roa's fiancé. Roa vehemently denied this, but Regulus acknowledged Luga's argument. However, he expressed trust in Setsu, causing disagreement among the Beastmen. Luga emphasized that Setsu had been missing for 5 years, and they couldn't be sure of his loyalty. To resolve the matter, Regulus proposed a duel officiated by himself, with the winner being betrothed to Roa. Luga accepted the challenge and set the duel for noon the following day in the arena. He then departed. Later, the king apologized to Setsu, acknowledging that there was no other way to convince the Beastmen. Roa expressed her loyalty to Setsu and asked for his help in convincing Luga. During the night, Roa visited Luga and spoke of Setsu's exceptional skills. Luga admitted that Setsu was indeed formidable but explained that, as a man, there were times he couldn't back down. He revealed a rune given to him by an Eastern mage, which could convert his willpower into strength. Although he knew it went against the Beast King's principles, he was willing to use it to protect Roa, even if it meant sacrificing his pride or life. Roa left, feeling that Luga still couldn't truly see her, which was why she hadn't fallen for him. The day of the duel arrived, with the crowd enthusiastically supporting Luga. Setsu noted that it had turned into a festival, while Roa wished him luck. Regulus explained that the match would continue until one fighter couldn't continue and started the duel. Luga charged at Setsu, using his claws to attack, but Setsu dodged skillfully. Luga attempted a flying claw attack, but Setsu deflected it effortlessly. Luga was surprised by the vast difference in their strength, and Setsu encouraged him to use his full power. Transforming into his beast form, Luga attacked again, but Setsu effortlessly lifted and threw him. The audience couldn't believe their eyes, and Setsu urged Luga to surrender, not wanting to harm his beastman pride any further. Refusing to give up, Luga tapped into the power of the rune, which Leviathan recognized as Toma's curse. He launched another attack at Setsu, prompting the king to order the evacuation of the audience. Setsu realized that gaining such strength from a curse must stress Luga's body. Leviathan handed Setsu a sword, and he knew he had to find a way to calm Luga down. Luga charged towards Setsu, and Setsu chopped off his arm, but it regrew instantly. Roa tried to stop Luga and cancel the duel, but he couldn't listen. Setsu warned Roa to be careful because the curse could spread to her. Roa felt the least she could do for Luga was to finish him herself, but Setsu had another plan that wouldn't involve killing him. However, he explained that he would be defenseless while executing it, and Luga volunteered to protect him. As Setsu attempted to summon Glutton, Toma suddenly appeared using projection magic. Toma beheaded Luga and expressed his joy at seeing Setsu again after a long time. Roa questioned Toma about whether he had tricked Luga into this, but Setsu prevented her from approaching Toma's projection. Toma tried to attack Roa, but Setsu intervened. Toma couldn't believe Setsu was protecting someone else and revealed his plan to destroy the world, leaving only him and Setsu as gods. Setsu made it clear that he would stop Toma if he harmed innocent people. Toma mentioned that Destinia had already begun invading the demonic continent, and he couldn't return in time to stop them. He challenged Setsu to protect everyone, vowing to win Setsu over. Toma's projection disappeared, and the scene shifted to Regulus apologizing to Setsu for approving the duel. Setsu assured Regulus it wasn't his fault and urged them to deal with their sentimentality later. They needed to head to the demonic kingdom to stop Toma. Regulus promised to arrange a ship and prepare the Zu Dorado army to follow soon. Setsu met Roa in the arena, and they agreed to set their emotions aside for now and focus on their mission. The scene shifts to 5 years ago, after Toma and Setsu's fight. Toma managed to survive the fight that resulted in Setsu returning to his original world. Toma was hiding at a temple where he found the necklace. He feels like none of his wishes ever came true and that he's tired and alone. The gem shows Toma people undergoing brutal experiments, including Kuro and Armel. They can't bear any more experiments and hope to escape someday. They feel like there's no place for them in this world, and some even wish they were never born. Toma is shocked to see others like him and decides to save them. He attacks the building where they're held, and the scientists flee, leaving the test subjects behind. Toma demolishes the building and tells them they're free. He invites them to join him in changing the world for the better since they've all been rejected by it. The story returns to the present, and Toma's wounds have healed. He asks his comrades if they're ready to become gods of this world, and they prepare for war with a large fleet of ships. Destinian ships are heading toward the demon continent, and everyone is worried about the upcoming battle. The students summoned from another world, along with Glyne and others, are part of this war. A soldier announces that they will reach land soon, and the general reminds them that this war is under their great king's orders. They must show the demons the true power of humans. Tia senses Toma's magical power and believes he's on this continent. She insists that their real enemy is Toma, not the demonic nation. Glyne realizes that it would be hard to convince the general and others that Toma is behind this, as they might think they're spies. Elka fears that this war might start unnecessarily. Yuyuhi believes Setsu is doing his best to stop it, recalling Setsu's promise to end the war. She expresses her trust in Setsu. Elka suggests they buy time until Setsu arrives. Tia urges Yuri to minimize casualties in the war and encourages Yuyuhi to believe in herself. They all vow to regain the peace they once had. The scene shifts to soldiers boarding boats and landing on the demon continent. The war begins as soon as they land, with demons casting spells on humans. Glyne plans to flank the enemy, while the general orders human mages to attack. The mages bombard the demon's defensive wall, slowly breaking it down despite the demon's attempts to protect it. Eventually, the humans succeed in bringing down the wall. The humans launch an attack on the demon camp, and Glenn moves in from the side. Tia advises the students from the other world not to pursue injured enemies, while Elka explains their plan to wait for the enemy to focus on the front and then charge all at once. The students grasp the strategy and follow Elka into the fight. They're unsure because it's their first time in a war, but they realize it's a do-or-die situation and join the battle. One of the girls falls behind and pleads with others not to leave her. A demon soldier attacks her, but Yuyuhi arrives and saves her using fire magic. The girl apologizes for being scared, and Yuyuhi reassures her, telling her not to push herself too hard. As the demons attempt to retreat due to their losing position, Yuyuhi notices some classmates about to kill a wounded demon. She intervenes, stating that the fight is over since the demon can't move anymore. Her classmate argues that it's a kill or be killed situation in war, but Yuyuhi disagrees, believing it's wrong to harm someone who's injured and defenseless. Suddenly, a voice remarks on Yuyuhi's nobility, but warns that they must fight or face consequences. Magic soldiers appear, and Yuyuhi recognizes them as the creatures that attacked them when they first arrived in this world. Elias also appears and starts attacking the humans, leaving the demons wondering if they have reinforcements. The magic soldiers begin to attack the demons. Glein and his team join forces to defeat the magic soldiers and make a surprising discovery. There are people inside the magic soldiers. Mellor arrives, and her presence surprises Elias, Tia, and the others. They can't believe they know each other, speculating that they were all part of Setsu's party. Elka questions Mellor about what she did to Elias. Mellor confesses to turning her into a doll because of her power. She reveals her plan to turn everyone into her puppets and form a puppet party so they can be together forever. This angers Elka, who attempts to attack Mellor but is stopped by Elias. Elka tries to snap Elias out of it, but it's unsuccessful. Mellor splatters her blood around her, confusing Glein and the others. Tia recognizes it as concentrated magic power, suspecting Mellor to be a monster master. Mellor introduces herself, and her blood transforms into monsters, which attack Glein and his group. They quickly defeat two of the monsters, but Mellor orders the remaining magic soldiers and monsters to attack. Tia uses her magic to handle the magic soldiers and defeats one of Mellor's monsters. Yuyuhi also takes down one of Mellor's monsters and thanks her friends for waiting for her. Tia questions Mellor about her next move now that her monsters are gone. Mellor complains that they're too strong without any enhancements and sends Elias to kill them. Glein takes down Elias, and Elka attacks Mellor, piercing her magic organ. Mellor is left on the brink of death, and Elka believes it's the price for playing with people's lives. Mellor, however, refuses to die, standing up. Elka and Tia are bewildered because Elka had pierced her magic organ. Mellor reveals her body has been modified with an extra long heart and magic organ, created as a weapon through countless experiments. She vows to take revenge on the world by destroying it. Mellor declares that Toma freed her from a terrible fate, and she'll fight for his sake. She uses a spell called Limit Break to surpass her limits and summons a chimera. Mellor merges with the chimera, using her life force to boost her magic power. Mellor attempts to attack everyone with her chimera, but they dodge her blows. The chimera then prepares a breath attack, and Tia and Yuyuhi shield everyone with a barrier. However, their magic is running low, and the chimera readies for another breath attack. Elias unexpectedly kills Mellor from behind, recalling the happy times they shared. She remembers their life together and briefly cherishes being Armel's older sister. Armel also sheds tears, reminiscing about the joyful moments with Elias. Then, both Elias and the chimera turn to stone. Elka tends to Elias' wounds, expressing relief that she's okay. Tia remarks on Mellor's surprising power and suggests they take a break after such a tough fight. A shadowy hand emerges from the river, revealing Keidru's arrival. He's astonished that they defeated Mellor, and the group acknowledges his strength but knows they're not fit for another battle right now. Yuyuhi decides to confront Keidru, despite the odds. Tia and Glein agree, understanding Yuyuhi's determination. Elka encourages Yuyuhi to do her best. Tia and Glein concur, deciding to provide support. Elka encourages Yuyuhi to give her all. Yuyuhi and Keidru prepare to face off when Setsu arrives from above. Yuyuhi is relieved to see him, and Setsu commends her for her efforts, asking her to leave the rest to him. Keidru immediately recognizes Setsu as the hero and drops his cloak, revealing his powerful aura. He's the one who attacked Disaster's palace, and Setsu charges at him. Meanwhile, Kuro takes down some soldiers, but Shiro and Mineko join the battle. Shiro believes Kuro isn't a bad person and calls her big sister, but Kuro attacks them with thrown weapons. Shiro and Mineko easily dodge the weapons. Kuro rushes towards them, swinging her weapon, but they skillfully evade her strikes. Shiro counterattacks, but she misses. Kuro taunts them, calling them useless cats, and injures Shiro's face. Then, Kuro targets Mineko, Shiro lands a flying kick on Kuro, and Mineko follows up by slamming her into the ground. Kuro appears defeated, and the sisters lower their guard. However, black tentacles suddenly emerge from the ground, restraining Mineko. Kuro gets back on her feet, now with extra arms. She pushes Shiro away and pushes her limits, strengthening her additional limbs. Kuro hurls one of her arms at Shiro, who dodges it, but the arm travels underground and reappears in front of her, hitting her. Shiro is sent flying as Kuro mocks sisterhood as a curse. Despite this, Shiro still affectionately calls Kuro her big sister, insisting it's not a curse. Kuro sends her arms after Shiro, who evades their attacks by running and jumping. Shiro then leaps towards Mineko, and they combine their powers, breaking the tentacles as they fuse together. They call it their secret power, while Kuro belittles them as useless. However, Shiro confidently dashes past Kuro, stating she doesn't stand a chance. Kuro summons more extra arms to attack, but the sisters spin like a top, blocking and destroying most of the arms. Kuro falls to the ground but refuses to give up, recalling her deceased siblings as she charges at them. However, the sisters defeat Kuro with a single strike, and as she lies motionless on the ground, they return to their original forms. Meanwhile, a man stands alone, facing a group of demon soldiers. They swing their swords at him, but it doesn't hurt him at all. He pushes the soldiers away and takes off his cloak, revealing his true self as Bulldoze. He challenges the soldiers to attack him. Roa joins the fight, leaping at him with a punch, but she's surprised that his face is so tough. She tells the soldiers to step back, saying she'll handle him. Bulldoze then reveals his body is made of iron. Bulldoze mentions Roa's pride, which hits a nerve with her. She charges forward, aiming a kick at him. However, Bulldoze remains unfazed, and Roa hurts her leg in the process. She vows to crush him for toying with the pride of the Beast Man and unleashes a powerful aura, declaring she'll keep hitting him until he breaks. Bulldoze opens his hand, releasing dark particles and explaining his ability to control his body freely. Iron pellets surround Roa, striking her multiple times. Roa falls, making Bulldoze think she's defeated as he starts to walk away. However, Roa stands up, surprising Bulldoze. She runs toward him, and he launches iron pellets, hitting her in the eye. Roa endures the pain, landing a solid punch on his face. Bulldoze recalls the ability of the Beast King's bloodline to burn their life force as a last resort to defeat their enemies. He hardens his body, determined to crush her pride. Roa continues to strike him with her fists, causing his armor to break. In response, he impales Roa with iron spikes, but she fights through the pain, destroying the spikes and driving her fist through his torso. Roa asserts that a Beastman's pride is unbreakable, but she collapses, exhausted. Bulldoze calls her a fool but decides to let her foolish pride live on. He heals her, and Roa regains consciousness as he falls to the ground. Roa is surprised that someone like him is working for Toma, and he reveals he's only doing it because he finds Toma cute. Meanwhile, Setsu engages in a battle with his opponent, who uses shadow abilities to immobilize him. The man is about to finish Setsu off, but Setsu blocks the attack. He pushes his opponent away, claiming superiority, but the man laughs and vows to bet his life in the battle. The man breaks his limit, covering himself in shadow armor, and the fight continues. Setsu leaps at him, striking his shoulders, but it has no effect as the shadow armor absorbs all energy. The man punches Setsu away, but Setsu gets back up, exuding his energy and using a sword skill to destroy the enemy's equipment. The man refuses to give up, charging with his broken sword as Setsu calls him an idiot and deals the final blow. Toma realizes all his companions have been defeated but remains determined to bring the story to its conclusion in this world. Leviathan hurries to check on Disaster, who notices that all of Toma's companions have been defeated, giving them the upper hand in the battle. However, Toma suddenly arrives, stating that no matter what they do, things will end the same way. There's a struggle, and both girls are defeated. Setsu rushes to find his friends, and Toma becomes jealous that Setsu came for them. Setsu thinks it's pointless to talk to Toma, but Toma claims that when he ends the world, they'll be the only ones left, and they'll have plenty of time to talk. Setsu charges at him, and they clash their blades. Toma is pushed back but transforms his sword and hurls it at Setsu. Setsu bats it away, and it destroys the roof, even cracking the sky. Leviathan can't believe their strength, but Setsu asks Toma if he's done warming up. Toma attacks with his aura, and Setsu defends himself. Toma gets behind him and slashes with his sword. Toma wonders if he's lost his touch, but Setsu tells him not to get cocky. Setsu manages to disarm him but drops his sword, surprising Toma. He starts beating Toma with his fists instead. Toma pushes him back, saying he let his guard down but decides they should step things up. He transforms his sword into a cannon and fires it, creating a hole in the mountain. Setsu is shocked by its power and realizes he needs to stop Toma before he fires it again. He rushes at Toma, landing a kick, and they start fighting in the sky. Toma can't land a hit, so he transforms his cannon into a Gatling gun and opens fire on Setsu. Setsu summons Gluttony, which devours the attack. Setsu gains power from absorbing the attack and releases the energy back at Toma. Setsu's other friends arrive, and he's glad they're safe. However, Toma thinks about how Setsu was always with other people, leaving him alone. He unleashes a tremendous amount of power, and Setsu notices something strange about it. Toma decides to go all out by sacrificing all his life force to break his limits, transforming his weapon into another form. He starts blasting everything around him with his weapon, and Setsu can only dodge. Toma then aims his attacks at Setsu's friends, firing his cannons at them. Setsu tries to absorb the attack with his sword, but it's not enough and some of the energy gets through. Luckily, his friends manage to survive by forming a shield together. Setsu fights back, attacking Toma with rapid slashes, eventually destroying Toma's weapon. He charges at Toma for a finishing blow, but Toma refuses to give up. Toma gets back up, transforming his weapon into a giant cannon, and fires it at Setsu. Setsu tries to shield himself, but it's not enough, and he gets blown away, crashing into the ground. Toma believes he has finally beaten Setsu and starts laughing crazily. However, Setsu has one last trick up his sleeve. He traps Toma with dimensional magic, leaving Toma unable to control his weapon. Setsu activates his final skill, raising the ground around Toma. Toma panics, recalling how Setsu promised to protect him. He expresses his desire to stay by Setsu's side, but he ends up sealed in darkness. However, we see his necklace is broken, and he regains consciousness. Wondering why he's still alive, Toma questions his actions. Setsu explains that he was trying to reach out to him, using his sword to only remove the curse that controlled him. He did it because he remembered his promise to protect Toma. Toma reflects on the unforgivable things he's done, but Setsu believes he now has a chance to make amends. Toma finds himself locked up, wondering about his punishment. Setsu tells him that he'll use all his magic power to send their classmates back to their own world. Toma thinks it's too lenient, but Disaster adds that once Setsu uses all his power, he'll become a regular human and won't be able to cause more trouble. Setsu suggests that Toma should also go to the other world for a fresh start. Toma works his spell, sending all the students back to their world. Setsu wonders why Toma didn't come with them, but Toma says he needs to make up for the bad things he did here. They say their goodbyes, and Setsu gets ready for a new journey. Elka wants to join him, but Tia mentions they have a lot to do after the war. Yuuhi, however, decides to stay with Setsu no matter where he goes. Together, they set off to explore the world, full of excitement for what's next. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.